Hi and welcome to another dox42 class. This time this is the class of dox42 release 4.5 and I'm going to introduce you and give you a tutorial of the latest features. I'm Lisa Pulsinger, Product Manager and Senior Technical Evangelist. So what we will cover today, you can see on our agenda slide. So everything is which you can see is available from dox42 version 4.5. At first, I'm going to talk about the MSAL authentication. Then we're going to have a look at the add-ins, a whole lot of new features there. We will talk about automated ranges. You can now set custom colors. We will cover the SharePoint data source where you can now also connect via a certificate. We will check the Excel data source where you can import fields as HTML now. We will talk about bulk letters, sending emails via Microsoft Exchange Online. We will have a look at the SharePoint Action with the new parameter rootfolder and what it can be used for. And we will cover a new parameter ReturnSavedFileInfo. Then let's get started. So what I'm going to start with at first, I'm going into my SharePoint and I'm going to open a template from my SharePoint. I'll open this in the app, and with the versions until now, when you open this, you authenticated with ADAL, but now you can also authenticate here with MSAL. So just a way of authenticating, I now chose my user. And if you want to switch between which authentication library from Microsoft you're going to use, you just go to dox42 to the Azure AD login window, and here you can choose whether you would like to work with MSAL or ADAL. And here you can also choose auto, where you're logged in automatically, or always ask that you can choose with which user you would like to log in. So that was the first new feature, the MSAL authentication. The second one is regarding automated ranges. We now made it easier, or even easier, to find the start and the end tag of an automate range. As you can see here, we have lots of automate ranges, so lots of conditions, lots of repetitions, and sometimes it's a bit hard, okay, which start tag and which end tag belongs to which automate range. Like for example, if I double click on that one, where does it start and where does it end? It starts here and it ends here. And now with the functionality color, I can say, okay, I want to mark this one, let's say in green. And I click on insert, and now I can see, okay, the start tag of my automate range is in green and also the end tag. So now exactly which tags belong where. And also, let's take another example. Here, this one should be in purple. So again, if you have lots of very complicated, so we can see it starts here and it ends here. So if you have very complex conditions, a lot of conditions, this really helps you to find your start and your end points. And plus, we've also made substantial performance improvements. So now your nested conditions and so on are really loading quite fast. Good, those were the automated ranges. The next feature I would like to show you is within the SharePoint data source. I'm going to my data map, and in my data map I can open my SharePoint data source, and now up here in the connection tab you can actually find new options. So you could still authenticate via username and password, but since more and more is moving towards multi-factor authentication, it's better to either connect with Azure Active Directory, so what you're already used to, so what you've worked with before, or you can now also authenticate with a certificate if you don't want to authenticate with a client secret. And let me show you, I would use here Azure AD application user with certificate. So you work with an application user here. And of course, the certificate has to also be available and uploaded in your Azure Active Directory app registration in Azure Active Directory. Don't forget that. Here, for the authentication, I'm choosing my app ID, so where I've actually uploaded my certificate. I'm choosing the tenant also. And then I'm going to import. So the client secret is grayed out because in SharePoint you can't connect if you go with an application user via client secret. You have to work with a certificate. I can go on insert certificate. You need to have a password. It needs to be password protected. And then I can go on OK and connect. And now I'm successfully connected, and I can choose the data from which list I actually want to read. Just one word, if you're then also using this to call your dox42 calls from, so via the dox42 server, you should either choose if you work with a client secret, so whether you register the site in your web.config, or if you work with certificate, so it's always the either or option with what you can work with. Good. So much for that. Then for Excel, and I'm going to open my Excel template, so my Word template, but which uses Excel data. Basically, so here again, I'm authenticating with MSAL, and here, if I go to my data map, I can now, if I open, for example, my contract information, and if I want to read information from my Excel that's formatted as an HTML, I can actually take the format from the Excel. That's a new feature. With the 3 dots, I open my Excel, and I can see that, like here in the last line, so in the last column R, this is formatted in red and quite big, and I want to display it like that also in my dox42 template. Okay, the same way. I'm just closing this again. In the contract information, what I have to do, I have to choose that for this column, this is a field type HTML. So it's either no field type or HTML. I want to display it as HTML. Okay. I'm closing this, and upon inserting this field, so I insert it, and I also say this is type HTML, and I click on OK. And then when I go and generate the document, I will then have the outcome formatted the same as in Excel. So now you can take HTML formats from Excel into your dox42 Word templates. Another thing which I would like to show you from here, so if you, for example, are working with bulk letters and you're, for example, sending lots of emails via bulk letter to, like, let's say 100 contacts, and if like the 50th contact has like a faulty email address that doesn't work, in the past the bulk letter generation stopped, and the emails weren't sent, like all emails after the 51st, which was broken, were not sent anymore. But now, if you click here on continue on error, even though like the 50th email is faulty, but if this one is clicked, all other emails will be sent afterwards as well. So you can make sure that the recipients with the correct email addresses actually receive those emails. And of course, for example, you will get an error report for the person where this is not the case. So much on that. Okay, so we have seen the MSAL authentication already. We have seen the automated ranges. We have seen that we can connect via certificate. We have seen on how we can import fields as HTML. We have seen the bulk letter. Now let's go to the server side of things. And the first thing here is I would like to show you how you can send emails via Exchange Online. Okay, so if you're using Microsoft Exchange Online, in order to send your emails with dox42, there are a few things you will need to take care of. First of all, in your Azure Active Directory app registrations, so what you've already set up to use dox42 with Azure Active Directory, in the API Permissions tab, you will need to add here a permission for Office 365 Exchange Online, where you first have delegated permissions, EWS access as user, and then also application permissions. Okay, you need to add that and then grant admin consent for that. So this is that dox42 is allowed to actually send emails via Exchange Online. And once you have that done, you need to go to your MAUI, so your dox42 Online MAUI, or if you're using dox42 on premise, you will go to your web.config. And just quickly signing in. And in your web.config, in the settings area, you will need to add to the SharePoint Online sites, you will need to add https outlook.office365.com and the app ID and the tenant ID and the corresponding client ID on where you set up the API permission I've just shown you before. So it's important that you have it in here. Okay, and once you've added that and then after that you clicked on save and deploy, then you're ready to set up your email calls. And let me show you, here's already an email call. So I'm using the dox42 server designer for that. Here I have a call with the template path. I have my input parameter added. Of course, also add your Azure Active Directory information. And basically here I have my email action. And everything is the same as what I used before. You need a file name, you need a receiver. You can actually add a sender here, or you can add it to your web.config. You need a header, so like an email header, and then for the mail method, you need to select your Exchange Online. You need to provide that one. Everything above, like Azure App ID, Tenant ID, Exchange Online URL, and so on, that can be taken from your web.config. I'm now calling this, and the service call is starting, and it's now using my Exchange Online method to send my emails. And here we go. Here's just a test page that I've sent now with the email. So this is how you work with Exchange Online. Next on our list is our SharePoint Action. There's a new parameter called rootfolder now. What is this used for? So if I go to my SharePoint, and here I have a library that's called here testlib new. But if I look up here, we can see that actually here, like it's displayed as testlib new, but the original name was actually testdoc library. And so if you rename your SharePoint libraries, sometimes it's a bit of a struggle that actually the name, is it the display name or the internal name, can be found. With the root folder parameter, you can now pass the parameter of the internal name, so the testdoc library instead of the library, the display name. Let me show you. Like here for my SharePoint action, I can actually remove the library. I can leave this empty. And here for the root folder, this is where I set the internal library name, so the test doc library. And this is the new parameter. And now I click on SOAP service call. And now the document is generated and actually put in that library where we used the root folder parameter. So the internal library name. A few seconds ago, we can see the quote root folder was added here now. Good, and last but not least, another new feature I would like to show you is that you can, if you like, for example, save a document via the save action, and you would actually like to also provide some details about the saved document, we now have a new parameter which you can add to your dox42 REST calls that actually gives us back information about the saved document in a JSON format. So how do I set this up? I can go to my REST URL and query strings, and I'm gonna copy that one, and I'm gonna copy that one in my browser. And I have to add one more parameter here, and I say this parameter is ReturnSavedFileInfo equals true. So if I do that, then the document gets generated, and in my browser I actually receive back information about the document in JSON, about that saved document. So if you need that, the new parameter for REST calls is ReturnSavedFileInfo equals true. Good, so those were the latest features of dox42 version 4.5. Of course, as always, we recommend you to go to our resources page to work with our many tutorials, to work with also sample templates, and reach out to us if you have any questions. Have fun with the latest version, and until the next time.